Good morning, everyone. This is Katie with NLFX Professional. I have Darren B-side with me today from DOS Audio, and we are going to be talking about a bunch of different stuff. So Darren, sorry, I always call you Darren because that's how I was introduced to you. I think it was that name a few years ago, but most people
That's
call
fine.
you B-side.
Yeah, it's an old industry name that just kind of stuck back in the days when I was a globe-trotting DJ. Let's put it that way.
Well, let's talk about that, Darren. How did you get into the industry?
I started out, believe it or not, I actually started out years ago, in like preteen, tween years, playing records and music and DJing in New Orleans. That's where I'm originally from. So I was a record buyer and I was a manager at a music store, and life was all good. And I started working for record labels and found out the other side of the business, just put it that way. And, since 1986, I say professionally, I've always been a DJ. I've always been interested in DJ technology, from recording equipment to actually playing out turntables, mixers, video equipment, lighting, you name it. If it had to do with production and entertainment, especially related to the DJ world, I was all about learning. So that's my official beginning. But I've been working on the manufacturing side of the business for quite a while.
How long is quite a while?
I started out with a manufacturer in 2000, I'd say about 99 to 2000.
Okay.
I started actually with Stanton DJ, the old DJ company that now hopefully will have new life under Jack's new umbrella of In Music. So that was his old stomping grounds, and ironically my old stomping grounds as well. So Stanton Group owned Stanton DJ, they owned Sherwin Vega speakers, and they owned KRK studio monitors. So.
Perfect. So, but now you're with DOS Audio.
Yes, I've been with DOS since 2014,
Perfect.
and I love it.
So tell me, I know that there may be some new things in the works. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, we announced at the beginning of this year our new compact line array system, which is really getting a lot of good attention, positive feedback from a lot of users in the market. Obviously, because of what happened to the entire industry, it's been let's just say a delayed launch, so to speak. But now that things are starting to open up a little bit more, we're really going to push hard, starting today, actually, with a launch, a relaunch, should I say, of the product actually being able to ship to the stores, people being able to go out and get demos, and having a whole supplementary support for end users as well as dealers and anyone who's really interested in audio.
And what is that line of speakers called?
Okay, it's the Event 26A and the Event 115A. Those are the newest members of the Event series. So the Event series is a very popular line array series for DOS Audio, which we launched about 3 years ago. And currently, prior to the new members of the family, it was a dual 8-inch, a dual 10-inch, and then more recently a dual 12-inch line array. So the line array cabinets, for those who are not quite familiar, the ones you typically see hanging in the air in a vertical column, so to speak, they are our kind of bread and butter. Really, that's what we're known for at DOS Audio, is a high quality, good clarity, really efficient line array system, and now it's even more affordable than before.
So then are you taking that line array, the actual line array technology, and putting it into the columns? Because I know there's some confusion, or there has been in the past, about the difference between a column array and a line array.
Right. So to help educate the users, actually, we're going to increase our education actually online. If you go, it's called event.dosaudio.com. We have our event simulator, and it gives a person an idea of what type of coverage, how many, either how wide of an area or how large is your audience. You can actually get an idea of what the coverage is, and that we're expanding to include some additional members of the family of the line array, fixed curve, and then the column, because there's a drastic difference between the three. And then now there's also obviously what is the traditional point source. Everybody knows a point source box. That's your traditional speaker on a stick. You get a certain amount of coverage horizontally and vertically, and that's one source that you typically have left and right, or you put it around the room. The fixed curve looks like a line array, but the boxes themselves, you cannot adjust the angles. You can only do the fixed curvature of each individual box. That will give you some vertical coverage. You usually get a little bit more vertical coverage when it's fixed. That is a little bit different. So in other words, your point source is kind of like this. And then you look at a fixed curve. I'll put my hand that way so you can kind of see. So let's say you've got 4 boxes. You notice one box is kind of pointing up, the other box is kind of pointing down. And the further away you get from the boxes, you notice there's some gaps in between, like my fingers. So it spreads the sound a little bit better, but as you spread away from the source, you don't get as clarity. You don't have as much total clarity. And then a line array actually reduces those gaps and gives you better penetration over a longer field of audio. Basically, you get more coverage over a longer distance when you use a true line array as opposed to a fixed curve. Now, the column has become very, very popular because the column is very, very slim. Mm-hmm. You usually get good horizontal coverage, and you get some depth because you have a lot of different arrays. Should I say you have a lot of different drivers giving you an array, but there are some limitations of the amount of depth. In other words, a column speaker will never throw or give you the same SPL as a true line array cabinet. It's designed for a shorter field, basically. You get good clarity and you get, really good wide coverage, but you don't get the same amount of depth as throw. In other words, you don't want to use a column system, even if you have it flown in the air, if you're trying to cover 3,000 people, or you're trying to cover, 50 feet by 150 or 100 feet deep. The column system isn't going to give you enough penetration, enough distance. It's better for short or near field applications, whereas the line array is really designed to throw long and far.
And the ones that you are relaunching are which type of speaker again?
It is a true line array. It is a ultra compact line array, so it's actually a really small dual 6. And it is in a V-shaped configuration, so the box is even more compact. But it is a true line array, so you need at least 3-4 cabinets stacked on top of each other to give you the good distance and to give you the vertical coverage that you would want.
Now, do you have to hang those, or are there other options like pole mount options for them as well?
We do have pole mount options. You would require basically the stacking bracket and the adapter. You can put up to two on a pole. If you're going to need more than that stacking, you just stack directly on top of the sub with the stacking bracket. You can stack and even transport up to 5 or 6 cabinets on the transport as well as the stacking bracket. And
what sub would you pair those ones with?
So the sub, if you're going to fly or you don't need a lot of low end, don't need a lot of bass, we have a single 15 that does give you good full low end coverage, but obviously not as much as the double 18 or the single 21. So it really depends on your application. We have a lot of guys that are actually doing a variety of stuff, especially now. Everyone's trying to make money and fit in, get in where they can fit in. So you've got a lot of guys doing, streaming and webinars and webcasting and mobile systems, corporate AV setups that are traditionally doing larger events in a normal scale. So this system allows you to take 2 tops and 1 15-inch sub on a pole, and you can do that for your corporate AV rental scenario. And then if you're going to do more music-based playback or live band or DJ, you can add the double 18, which is the Event 218A, or you can add the single 21, which is my favorite. It's a very, very compact, but it's a 21-inch driver, so it's not tiny. But you do get more out of a single 21 than you do out of a double 18 as far as low end. And that's why I prefer that cabinet. So you can pair with either of the two, depending if you're doing live music, if you're doing DJ, if you're doing a wedding, a quinceañera, a bar mitzvah. You never know how much bass you do or don't need. So now you have the flexibility of scaling up or scaling down.
And the link that I have scrolling on the bottom, the event.das audio, that's going to help determine what is best for your needs.
Yes, we're going to be adding the newer cabinets to that guide. It's basically a simulation guide. You go in and you choose, hey, this is the size of the area I want to cover. You know, what speakers do I need? What are the better options? You know, do I ground stack or do I fly? You know, what happens when I fly? If I fly 4 cabinets, will I get more out of it? And the answer is actually yes. When you fly 4 cabinets, identical setup, when you put that up in the air, you're able to aim it directly at your audience and get a better coverage once it's in the air. Obviously, if it's ground stack, you're subject to a lot of other things that can affect your audio transferring from front to back. So typically it's people. Your bodies absorb frequencies and the actual waves of sound. So the more people you have and the closer the speakers are to the people, the less sound you're going to be able to get to the back of the audience. So you put that up in the air and you aim down, you can get better coverage.
I love your answer because it's very similar to mine, and that it depends. It depends on a lot of different. When I have
There's a lot of factors.
What can I do for this? The answer is always like, well, it depends. What are you trying to do? What do what exactly are your needs? And then we can figure out what works best for you. So that we're on the same page there, Darren.
Definitely. I always tell people there is no such thing as a stupid question. Right. And I'll try not to give you any stupid answers, but the answer is always going to depend. It's going to depend on how much information you give me. You know, guys come up to us all the time. Yeah, well, should I buy this or that? And I'm going, okay, where do you want to use it? How do you plan on using it? How many people? Is it indoors? Is it outdoors? How much power do you have? Are you going to use lighting with this? There's so many different factors that really people don't consider. And the more information you have, the better you can make an educated decision. And that's what we try to do.
So guys, I'm going to say, if you have any questions, write them in the comments. I am monitoring them as we speak. So Darren, let's talk a little bit more about you. Have you always wanted to be in the entertainment industry, even when you were like a little B-side running around? Did you want to be in the entertainment industry? What did you want to do when you grew up?
Yeah, actually, I wanted to be a DJ and a producer before it became the thing everyone wanted to do. Like I say, I started out in '86. So I was carrying records and literally schlepping them upstairs to get my first gigs as a DJ. And I would have crates and crates and crates and crates of records. So I've always wanted to be a DJ and focus on that, but I was always interested in music. As a kid, I was playing like 6 or 7 instruments by the time I was 10 years old. And a lot of it was self-taught because I didn't grow up in the most, let's say, financially wealthy neighborhood or most affluent neighborhood. I grew up in New Orleans, and I was very, very blessed to have, both my parents in the home and both parents working. And I really grew up much better off than most of my cousins and relatives. So I was totally blessed in that, and I was able to teach myself how to play the piano because my grandmother had a piano, and then my brother had an old clarinet. So, I would take the hand-me-down instruments and learn how to play them. So I started out really wanting to be a musician, and once I caught the DJ bug and percussion bug, I pretty much stopped playing all the other instruments and just played the drums and percussion, Latin, Afro-Latin percussion, and DJing, and always incorporated DJing. So I've always had that at the forefront, and I always consider myself a fan of the art form of DJing. I never want to get complacent and figure out, okay, yeah, he's good, but I could do better than that. If he's doing something, I want to learn from it. I want to know why, the new technology has morphed how guys DJ. You've got a lot more incorporation of live drumming now. You've got some guys like, there's an artist named Buck Rogers, and it's just amazing to see him do what he does, because he'll drum on the drum machine with just two hands, and he'll DJ as well with the same two hands, and he's like literally drumming with one hand and scratching the record and DJing with the other hand. And it's just phenomenal to see the art form elevate and evolve. So I'm always a big fan. I never ever want to detach myself from being a lover and a fan of the art form and music in general.
Do you currently take gigs right now as well? Do you DJ on the side or anything?
Yes. Well, I was up until the great COVID caper of 2020, as we call it. I still do a lot more private events than I do club gigs. And I still have my, basically my side business of DJing and doing event production and music remixing and production. But there's a few spots in South Florida that I would consider home. One of them is called The Hub in downtown, well, it's near downtown Fort Lauderdale. It's called the Fat Village or Flagler Village, kind of the hip area of Fort Lauderdale, adjacent to downtown Fort Lauderdale. And it's a really cool bar / club. Like, it's two separate rooms. So one side is the bar, and it looks like almost like an outdoor camping ground where you literally have the facade of a trailer, and the DJ booth is a barbecue grill. It's really cool. Mm-hmm. And then the other side is more of a lounge club where, they've got a much bigger system, and, it's more moving heads and moving lights and darker room and bigger sound. So that's primarily where I would be DJing at least once or twice a month. Obviously, as soon as things open up safely, we'll be able to return to that hopefully soon. I definitely miss playing out. It's one of the things I think it's therapy for me. Mm-hmm. And it also, like I say, it keeps me in the full circle. I never want to be just the industry guy or just the speaker guy or just the sound guy or even just the DJ. I always have to have a well-balanced perspective.
So, Darren, on that note, what would you say success means to you as a person, as a business owner? What would be your definition of success?
That definition, I guess, changes over time. Because when I first started out, I thought success was, if I can make a living playing records, I'm successful, because that's what I love. That's what I wanted to do. And after I was able to accomplish that, I had to raise my goals and say, okay, I've succeeded at this. Okay, now what? So I wanted to start doing larger audiences. I wanted to start touring and traveling. And as I was traveling, I would return back, especially from out of the country. I would return back, and it would always be a crate of records missing. And that became costly and very frustrating. So I was more than happy to help develop what now is kind of forgotten about. It was the flagship program called Final Scratch. So it was before Serato, before Tractor Scratch. There was this program called Final Scratch, and you would connect your turntables to a USB hub and connect that to your mixer, and you could actually do everything that the DJs are doing now. But this was pre-controller. This is turntables and then or CDJs. You would connect and do the traditional mixing. So as I was touring the world, I was like, okay, I need something where I can play all the wonderful music I want to play, and even play some original remixes and edits, but I don't want to have to lose records or carry around all these heavy records. So at that point, success to me was, wow, I helped revolutionize this industry to the point where now you can go anywhere in the world with your laptop and play any of the music, whether it's your own music, whether it's remixes, whether it's traditional songs from that country, and being able to do live remixing on the fly. So, at that point in time, that was the height of my career. And then playing for about 13,000 people at various music festivals. There was the Hot Beats Festival in Argentina, and there was a Beats Festival, I forget the name of it now. It was all really big music festivals in South America, and I had no idea how big electronic music was until I actually started playing it in other countries and other areas. And to me, that was like, okay, now it even raised my horizon even broader and wider. So then okay, now this is what I consider success. So as I grow older, that definition changes. To me, as a person, success is you're happy doing what you love. You can afford to provide for your family and friends by doing what you love without losing credibility or without doing something immoral or unscrupulous. You know what I mean? Like that to me is now to me the definition of success. I'm able to provide for my family. I have a family of 4 girls. I also have a son who's a nurse. He's an ER nurse in Texas at Baylor Hospital. So I got to give a shout out to Christian, my son. And I have 4 girls and my wife, Maria. So to me, success is being able to sustain the impacts of what's going on right now and still be able to provide for my family and still be able to push the envelope of audio, push the envelope, whether it be DJ, speakers, or recording. As long as I can have ties into the industry some way and try to push the envelope and try to get the next best thing going, I'm all for that. And I've always been a very big advocate for DJ technology. So when stuff like the Phase came out, I was like, this is awesome. And I mean, let me incorporate this into my workshops. And I still do workshops to this day. We're actually going to do a broadcast workshop where we talk about DJ technology, past, present, and future. So to me, that's now, I guess, the meaning of success is to be able to provide for my family and friends and to continue to push the envelope.
So I have a few more questions for you before we go. The first one is, when you DJ, do you use turntables or are you a controller man?
I prefer turntables. Always will prefer turntables. Believe it or not, I kind of skipped past the CDJ stage or the CD stage, although I designed CD players and we helped kind of almost flip the CD player upside down by putting the drum pads or the buttons, the cue buttons at the bottom. Because back in the day, they were all the way at the top and you would always accidentally hit something. So we inverted that when I was working with Stanton. And I jumped from turntables and went all the way to controller. At the club, they have a controller. So I use what's already there in most cases, whether it's CDJs or a controller. But my heart is always turntables. So I hate to say, if I get paid enough, I will gladly bring out the turntables and rock the party with the turntables for anybody. So there was actually a 70s, a private event that I did. I want to say it was in December of 2019 or January of 2020. I did a private event for a family in the Gables in South Florida. And it was an all 70s party. And it was primarily rock. And I brought out the turntables for that. And they were just astounded that, oh, wow, he's playing the record. Like it's something about the authenticity of using the turntable. It automatically kind of separates you from the standard or the typical controller or laptop-based DJ. So when people see that, they go, oh, wait a minute. He's a veteran. He knows how to use the turntable. Right. And that is almost like a status symbol to some degree. So I kind of enjoy that first and always will. But I got to use the technology that's available, that's in front of me. So, it's either you either move into the technology or you die out with the dinosaurs. So I didn't want to die out with the dinosaurs. And I didn't want to keep breaking my back, bringing out these heavy turntables. So I moved into the controller realm if it's available, if it's feasible. But I always prefer tables. Always will.
Perfect. And then the last and final question I have for you, my son Jackson, who's 10, gets the last question of the show. And
awesome.
It's not really a question, it's more of a statement, but he would like you to invent a new sport. If you could invent a sport, what would it be?
Ooh, and that's invent. See, it's tough because
or a mashup of 2 sports or just something.
I was going to say, I would have to give you that answer quickly. I would have to probably mash up 2 sports, but then 2 or 3 sports. But even then, it would be tough. It's going to sound crazy, and I know it's already kind of being done, but I'd like to see high diving mixed with slam dunk competition.
Okay.
It's a bit dangerous,
yeah.
a bit out there, but I kids kind of do it on a little small scale in a pool. But imagine if you had the ability to do, like, not necessarily platform diving, but Olympic diving, Olympic divers, but either diving through the hoop itself, not necessarily the basketball hoop, but a large hoop itself, or being able to slam dunk on the way down, or a mixture of like water polo and basketball type, something like that, something crazy like that.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate you joining me today, Darren. If you guys have any questions, write them in the comments. I will be monitoring them afterwards. And again, thanks, Darren. It was a great talking to you today.
Thank you so much. I'm so appreciative. Thank you for having me, and thank Ben and the guys at NLFX.
Absolutely. And we'll see all of you on Monday.
Be safe. Keep washing your hands, y'all. This is not over yet. Soon, God willing.